When I opened that cream-colored envelope, I thought it was just another cruel joke from my past. My ex-fiancé Marcus had left me after I lost my hair to chemotherapy, saying I wasn't the same person he fell in love with. Now, his new girlfriend was inviting me to their engagement talk party. But tucked inside was a handwritten note that made my blood run cold. Celeste, I know, this seems strange, but I really hope you'll come. There's something I need to tell you. Something Marcus doesn't. No, I'm doing. Please trust me. I read those words over and over, my heart pounding. What secret could she possibly be hiding from the man she was about to marry? And why did she need me to hear it? The cream-colored envelope felt heavy in my hands. Too heavy. For something so simple. My name, Celeste Rivera, was written across the front in perfect script. The kind of fancy writing you see on wedding invitations and graduation announcements. But this wasn't either of those things. This was worse. I stared at the return address until the words burned into my brain. Bryn and Marcus Whitfield. The names looked so official together. So permanent, like they belonged that way. Marcus. My Marcus. Well, not my Marcus anymore. Not for 8 long months now. My hands shook as I turned the envelope over. There was a gold seal holding it closed. Even their engagement party invitation was perfect. Just like her. Just like everything about his new life without me. I should throw it away. That's what my best friend Zara would tell me to do. Girl, put that poison straight in the trash where it belongs. I could hear her voice in my head, full of the anger. I couldn't quite feel anymore, but I couldn't throw it away. Not yet. Instead, I ran my fingers through my hair. It was finally growing back after the chemo. Short and curly now. Nothing like the long waves that used to flow down my back. The hair Marcus used to love. The hair he used to wrap around his fingers while we watched movies on Sunday mornings. The hair that fell out in chunks while I was fighting for my life. I opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a photo of them together. Marcus wore his navy blue suit, the same one he'd worn to my cousin's wedding when we were still happy. When we were still planning our own wedding. And there she was. Bryn. Golden hair flowing like something from a shampoo commercial. Perfect smile. Perfect skin. Perfect everything. Everything I used to be before cancer changed my body. Before chemo stole my hair and my energy and my confidence. Before I became someone Marcus couldn't love anymore. You're not the same person I fell in love with, he had said that horrible February night. I can't handle this version of you. The invitation itself was elegant and expensive. Thick paper that probably cost more than my groceries for a week. Gold lettering that caught the light. Bryn and Marcus Whitfield cordially invite you to their engagement party. Saturday, October 15th. 7 o'clock in the evening, Riverside Country Club. But there was something else in the envelope. A handwritten note on matching paper. My heart stopped when I saw it was addressed to me personally. Celeste, it began in careful handwriting. I know this might seem strange, but I really hope you'll come. There's something I need to tell. You. Something important. Something Marcus doesn't know I'm doing. Please trust me. I know you have no reason to, but please come. Bryn. I read the note 3 times, then 3 more times. What could she possibly want to tell me? What didn't? Marcus know about? Celeste? You okay in there? Zara's voice called from my kitchen. She'd been staying with me more often lately, ever since I started having the nightmares again. Ever since my last doctor's appointment when they said the word remission, and I should have been happy, but instead felt empty. I'm fine, I called back, but my voice cracked on the words. Zara appeared in my doorway anyway. She took one look at the invitation in my hands, and her face went dark. "Oh, hell no. Please tell me that's not what I think it is." I held up the invitation and the note. "They want me to come to their engagement party." "They want you to what?" Zara crossed the room in 2 steps and snatched the papers from my hands. Her eyes moved quickly over the words. "This is sick, Celeste. This is actually sick. What kind of person invites their ex to their engagement party?" "Read the note," I whispered. Zara's anger shifted to confusion as she read Bryn's message. "What do you think she wants to tell you?" "I don't know." And I really didn't, but something about the way she'd written it made my stomach twist with worry, or maybe hope. I couldn't tell the difference anymore. "You're not actually thinking about going, are you?" Zara sat down on my bed and looked at me, like I'd lost my mind. "Celeste, this man destroyed you. He left you when you needed him most. Why would you want to torture yourself by watching him celebrate his new life?" I took the invitation back and stared at the photo again. Marcus looked happy. Really, truly happy in a way I hadn't seen in months before he left. Maybe Zara was right. Maybe this was just another way for him to hurt me. But that note from Bryn kept pulling at something deep in my chest. Something Marcus doesn't know I'm doing. What could that mean? "I don't know if I'm going," I said finally. "But I'm not throwing it away either. Not yet." Zara sighed and pulled me into a hug. "Whatever you decide, I'm here for you. But promise me, you'll really think about this. Promise me you won't go just to hurt yourself more." I promised. But even as the words left my mouth, I knew I was lying. I was going to that party. I had to know what Bryn wanted to tell me. I had to know what Marcus didn't know, even if it destroyed me all over again. 6 months before that invitation arrived, I thought I had the perfect life. Marcus and I lived in a cute blue house with white shutters. We had a front porch swing where we planned to watch our future kids play in the yard. Everything felt like a fairy tale. I worked as a graphic designer downtown. Marcus climbed the ladder at his accounting firm. We were planning our spring wedding. I had already picked out flowers and a dress. Everything was exactly how I dreamed it would be. Then I found the lump. It was a Tuesday morning in September. I was getting dressed for work, rushing because I was late for a big meeting. My hand brushed against my left breast while I was putting on my bra. There it was. A small, hard bump that definitely wasn't there before. My whole world stopped in that moment. Marcus was downstairs making coffee. I could hear him humming some random song from the radio. He always hummed when he was happy. Back then, he was happy a lot. "Marcus," I called down the stairs. I tried to keep my voice normal, but it came out shaky. "Can you come here?" He ran up the stairs fast, taking them 2 at a time. His dark hair was still messy from sleep. He wore those silly superhero pajama pants I bought him for Christmas. "What's wrong, beautiful?" I took his hand and placed it on the spot. "Do you feel that?" His face changed instantly. The smile disappeared. His eyes got serious and scared. "We're calling Dr. Peterson right now," he said. He was already reaching for his phone. The next few weeks felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Doctor visits, tests, waiting, rooms that smelled like disinfectant, waiting for results, waiting for answers, waiting to find out if I was going to die. Marcus held my hand through every appointment. He took notes when I was too scared to listen. He looked up treatment options online and made lists of questions for the doctors. He was my rock, my safe place in the storm. When Dr. Hendricks told us it was stage 2 breast cancer, Marcus wrapped me in his arms. "We're going to beat this together," he whispered in my ear. "You and me, Celeste. Always you and me." I believed him. I had to believe him. The chemotherapy started in November. I'll never forget that first day. I sat in a big reclining chair with an IV in my arm. Poison dripped into my veins to kill the cancer cells. It tasted like metal in my mouth. My stomach felt sick almost right away. Marcus sat beside me the whole time. He read my favorite romance novel out loud to distract me. "This is just temporary," he kept saying. "You're going to be okay. We're going to be okay." But as the weeks passed, I watched Marcus start to pull away. At first, I told myself it was just stress. He worked longer hours. He came home tired and quiet. He stopped coming to doctor visits with me. "I have important meetings," he would say. The worst part was how he looked at me. The love in his eyes started to fade. Instead, I saw pity, or maybe disgust. I couldn't tell which hurt more. My hair started falling out after the second treatment. I found clumps on my pillow in the morning, in the shower drain, on my clothes. I tried to hide it from Marcus, but it was impossible. One morning, I woke up to find a small mountain of auburn hair on my pillowcase. I ran to the bathroom mirror. Patches of bare scalp stared back at me. I looked like a stranger. A sick stranger. Marcus found me crying over the bathroom sink. I was holding fistfuls of my own hair. "It's okay," he said, but his voice sounded empty, fake. "It's just hair. It'll grow back." I could see the truth in his eyes, though. This wasn't the woman he fell in love with. This bald, sick, broken version of me wasn't what he signed up for. I decided to shave off what was left. Better to be completely bald than to look like I was falling apart piece by piece. I asked Marcus to help me. Maybe it would bring us closer together. Maybe it would help him accept this new me. He couldn't do it. He stood there holding the electric razor. His hands were shaking. Then he just set it down and walked out of the bathroom. He didn't say a word. I shaved my head myself that night. I cried silently so he wouldn't hear me from the bedroom. That's when I knew we were in trouble. That's when I started to lose him. But I kept fighting. I kept believing that if I could just get better, everything would go back to normal. If I could just survive the cancer, we could survive anything. I was wrong. Marcus was already planning his escape. He was already looking for someone new, someone healthy, someone with hair, someone who wouldn't remind him of sickness and fear and mortality. He was already looking for Bryn. I just didn't know it yet. The treatments continued through the winter. 6 rounds of chemo that left me weak and nauseated and bald. But they worked. The cancer started shrinking. My doctors were hopeful. Marcus grew more distant with each passing week. By February, we barely talked anymore. He slept on the couch most nights, claiming he didn't want to disturb my rest. He stopped saying he loved me. He stopped touching me at all. I should have seen what was coming. All the signs were there, but I was too busy fighting for my life to notice I was losing my fiancé. The end came on a Tuesday in February, the same day I finished my last round of chemo, the same day my doctor told me the cancer was gone, the same day I thought we could finally start healing together. Instead, it was the day Marcus chose someone else. That Tuesday in February was supposed to be a celebration. My final chemotherapy session was done. The cancer was gone. My hair was starting to grow back in tiny dark fuzz across my scalp. I was going to survive. I thought we were going to survive too. Marcus had been staying late at work more and more. When I asked about it, he said they were working on a big merger. The hours were brutal, he said, but temporary. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. That Tuesday, I decided to surprise him. I made his favorite dinner, homemade lasagna with garlic bread. I opened a bottle of the wine we shared on our first date. I put on the red dress he bought me for my birthday, the one he said made my eyes look like emeralds. I lit candles on our dining room table. I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted to celebrate that we had made it through the worst time of our lives. I waited for him to come home. 7 o'clock came and went, then 8, then 9, then 10. The lasagna got cold on the counter. The candles burned down to nothing. The wine sat unopened. At 10:47 p.m., I heard his key in the lock. I jumped up from the couch and ran to the door. I was ready to throw my arms around him, ready to tell him about my good news from the doctor, ready to start our new life together. But Marcus wasn't alone. A woman stood beside him in our doorway. She was tall and blonde and beautiful in a way that made my chest hurt. She was everything I used to be before the cancer, before the chemo, before my body betrayed me and took away everything that made me feel pretty. Celeste, Marcus said. I had never heard my name sound so guilty coming from his lips. We need to talk. The woman, Bryn, I would learn later, waited in the car while Marcus delivered the words that would shatter what was left of my heart. I can't do this anymore, he said. He couldn't even look at me when he said it. I thought I could, but I can't. You're not the same person I fell in love with. I'm still me, I whispered. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure it was true. The cancer had changed me. The treatments had left me tired and weak and different. I'm still the same person inside. I know you're better now, he continued. I know the cancer is gone, but I've moved on. I met someone else, someone who makes me feel alive again. Bryn. He had met Bryn while I was fighting for my life, while I was losing my hair and my strength and my sense of self, while I was trusting him to love me through the worst thing that had ever happened to me. When? I asked. I wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer. A few months ago, at the company. Christmas party. You were too sick to come, remember? I remembered. I had been in the middle of chemo, too sick to stand for more than a few minutes, too weak to put on a dress and smile and pretend everything was fine. I had told him to go without me, to have fun, to live a little. I had basically pushed him straight into her arms. I'm sorry, Celeste. I really am sorry. But I can't pretend anymore. I can't pretend that I'm not happier with her than I've been with you in months. Those words cut deeper than any surgery, deeper than any needle. He was happier with her, happier than he had been with me, even before I got sick. What about our wedding? I asked. What about the house? What about all our plans? You can keep the house, he said. Like that made it better. Like keeping the house we picked out together would somehow fix the hole he was tearing in my heart. I'll sign it over to you. He packed a bag that night while I sat on our couch. I stared at the cold lasagna and tried to understand what was happening. The man I was supposed to marry was leaving me. The man who promised to love me through sickness and health was walking away the moment I got healthy again. I'll come back for the rest of my things later, he said. He stood by the door with his overnight bag. And Celeste, I hope you find someone who can love you the way you deserve. The way you deserve, like I deserve to be abandoned during the worst time of my life, like I deserve to be thrown away, like broken furniture. After he left, I sat in the dark for hours. I touched my fuzzy scalp and wondered if I would ever feel beautiful again. Wondered if anyone would ever love this version of me. The survivor. The fighter. The woman who had been to hell and back but lost her hair and her fiancé along the way. Looked at the cold dinner on the table, the melted candles, the unopened wine, all the effort I had put into celebrating our survival, celebrating a love that was already dead. That night, I called Zara. She came over immediately, still in her pajamas. She found me sitting on the kitchen floor, holding a picture of Marcus and me from our engagement party. We looked so happy in that photo, so sure of our future together. He's gone, I told her. He's really gone. Good, Zara said, sitting down beside me on the cold tile floor. He's a coward, Celeste. A selfish, weak coward who doesn't deserve you. But late that night, after Zara fell asleep on my couch, I couldn't stop thinking about what Marcus had said. That I wasn't the same person he fell in love with. That he was happier with someone else. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was damaged. Goods now. Maybe I was a broken version of my former self. Maybe nobody would ever love me again. I spent the next few months believing that lie. I spent the next few months thinking I wasn't worth loving because I had survived something that was supposed to kill me. I had no idea that Marcus's reasons for leaving had nothing to do with love at all. I had no idea what he had really been planning while I fought for my life. The months after Marcus left were the hardest of my life. And that's saying something when you've just survived cancer. At least with cancer, I had something to fight. With heartbreak, I just had emptiness. Zara moved in with me for a while. She slept on my couch and made sure I ate at least one meal a day. She had known Marcus almost as long as I had. She was angry for me in a way I couldn't manage yet. He's a coward, she would say, bringing me coffee in bed when I couldn't get up. A selfish, pathetic coward who doesn't deserve you. But late at night, when Zara was asleep and the house was quiet, I would touch my growing hair. I wondered if she was wrong. Maybe Marcus was right. Maybe I wasn't the same person he fell in love with. Maybe I was damaged goods now, a broken version of my old self. I started going to a support group for cancer survivors. Every Thursday evening, I sat in a circle with other people who understood. People who knew what it felt like to have your body turn against you. People who knew what it was like to lose pieces of yourself you thought were permanent. There was Eleanor, a 60-year-old teacher who lost both breasts to cancer. She spoke about her recovery with fierce pride. There was James, a 45-year-old father who beat lymphoma. He was training for a marathon. There was Sophia, barely 22, who survived leukemia. She was starting college in the fall. They, too, all had stories of relationships that didn't survive their diagnoses. Parents who couldn't handle the treatment. Friends who disappeared when things got tough. Partners who left when they were needed most. Some people, Eleanor said during one meeting, love the idea of you, not the real you. When you're tested by something like cancer, you find out who's really in your corner. Marcus had loved the idea of me, the healthy, beautiful, carefree version. When that version disappeared, so did he. Slowly, I started to rebuild my life. I went back to work and threw myself into design projects. I bought new clothes that fit my changed body. I tried different headscarves. As my hair grew longer, I experimented with new styles. My hair came back different than before. Darker and curlier with a few streaks of silver. I decided to keep the silver. It was like my body was announcing that I was different now, that I had been through something that changed me at a deep level. I started dating again, though it was scary. How do you tell someone you've had cancer? How do you explain the scars? How do you share the trauma of it all? I went on a few dates that went nowhere. Men who were kind but clearly uncomfortable with my history. Men who saw me as an inspiration, rather than a woman. Men who tried too hard to be understanding. They treated me like I was fragile instead of strong. Then I met David. David was a veterinarian. He was soft-spoken and gentle, with kind eyes and a laugh that made me feel lighter. He didn't flinch when I told him about the cancer. He didn't treat me like I was broken or fragile. He just listened. He asked thoughtful questions. Then he took my hand and said, "Thank you for trusting me with that." We had been dating for 2 months when the invitation arrived. 2 months of discovering that I could love again, that I was worthy of love again. 2 months of learning that Marcus had been wrong. I was still me, just a stronger, more resilient version. But seeing that invitation brought back all the old pain, the rejection, the abandonment, the feeling of being thrown away when I needed love most. "You don't have to go," David said when I showed him the invitation. "You don't owe him anything." But I couldn't stop thinking about Bryn's note. What could she possibly want to tell me? What didn't Marcus know she was doing? Part of me wanted to throw the invitation away and never think about it again. But another part of me was curious, the fighter in me, the survivor in me. What could the woman who stole my fiancé possibly have to say to me? "I think I need to go," I told David one evening. We were sitting on my front porch swing, the same one where Marcus and I used to plan our future. "I need to know what she wants to tell me." David nodded slowly. "I understand, but I'm worried about you. Are you sure you're ready for this?" "I'm not sure about anything," I admitted. "But something about her note keeps bothering me. The way she wrote it, the urgency, the fact that Marcus doesn't know she's reaching out to me. What do you think it could be?" "I have no idea. But I have this feeling that there's more to the story, more to why Marcus really left." David squeezed my hand. "Whatever you decide, I'm here for you. But promise me something." "What?" "Promise me you won't let this set you back. You've come so far, Celeste. You've built such a beautiful life. Don't let him take that away from you again." I promised, but even as I said it, I wondered if I was making a mistake. Going to that party could destroy all the progress I had made. It could bring back all the pain and self-doubt I had worked so hard to overcome. But I had to know. I had to know what Bryn wanted to tell me. I had to know what Marcus didn't know, even if the truth was worse than I imagined. I stared at that invitation for 3 days before I made my decision. Zara thought I was crazy. "Why would you want to torture yourself like that?" she asked. She paced around my living room like a caged animal. "He left you when you needed him most. Now, you're going to celebrate his engagement to the woman he cheated on you with." David was more understanding but equally worried. "I trust your judgment," he said, "but I worry about you. Are you sure you're ready for this?" The truth was, I wasn't sure about anything. But something about Bryn's note kept nagging at me. The way she had written it, the urgency in her words, the fact that she specifically said, "Marcus didn't know. She was reaching out to me." It all suggested there was more to this story. Saturday came faster than I expected. I called in sick to work and spent the morning getting ready. I changed clothes 4 times before settling on a navy blue dress that David said made me look radiant. I spent extra time on my hair and makeup. If I was going to face my past, I wanted to look strong. The country club was on the other side of town, the kind of fancy place Marcus and I had looked at for our own wedding reception before deciding it was too expensive. Now he was having his engagement party there with someone else. The parking lot was full of luxury cars. I sat in my modest sedan for 10 minutes, working up the courage to go inside. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I kept thinking about David's words from the night before. "You don't have to prove anything to anyone," he had said, holding me close. "You're already enough, exactly as you are." But I needed to know what Bryn wanted to tell me. I needed to understand what Marcus didn't know about. The party was in full swing when I walked inside. Elegant music played while well-dressed guests mingled on a beautiful terrace. Everyone held champagne glasses and laughed at jokes I couldn't hear. The whole scene looked like something from a magazine. I spotted Marcus immediately. He was standing near the bar, telling some story that had everyone around him laughing. He looked good, healthy and happy in a way that made my chest tight with old pain. This was the Marcus I remembered from before everything went wrong. Before. Cancer changed both of our lives. He hadn't seen me yet. Part of me wanted to turn around and leave before he did. Then I saw her. Bryn was stunning in a way that made me understand why Marcus had chosen her. She wore a flowing white dress that made her golden hair look like spun silk. She moved through the crowd with the kind of confidence I had lost somewhere between diagnosis and treatment. But there was something else about her, something I couldn't quite figure out. She seemed nervous, distracted, like she was looking for someone. She was looking for me. Our eyes met across the crowded terrace. She immediately started walking toward me. I had the strangest urge to run, but my feet seemed glued to the spot. "Celeste," she said when she reached me. Her voice was softer than I had expected. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "I almost didn't," I admitted. "Your note. What did you want to tell me?" She glanced around nervously. Then she took my arm gently. "Not here. Can we go somewhere private? There's a garden area behind the clubhouse." I followed her through the crowd of laughing party guests. We walked past Marcus, who was too busy entertaining his friends to notice me. Past all the other people who were celebrating the love I thought was supposed to be mine. The garden was quiet and peaceful. String lights hung between the trees, and the soft glow of the moon lit up flower beds. Bryn led me to a bench near a fountain, far enough from the party that we couldn't be heard. "I need to tell you something," she said. Her hands were trembling slightly. "Something about Marcus, about why he really left you." My heart started racing. "What do you mean?" "He didn't leave you because you got sick," she said. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "He didn't leave you because your hair fell out or because you looked different." "Then why?" I asked, though I wasn't sure. I wanted to know the answer. Bryn took a deep breath. When she spoke again, her words shattered everything I thought I knew about my relationship with Marcus. "He left you because of the money." I stared at her, not understanding. "What money?" "The insurance money. The life insurance policy you didn't know about." My world tilted sideways. "I don't have a life insurance policy." "Yes, you do," Bryn said quietly. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. "Marcus took one out on you 2 years ago, right after you got engaged. A big one. $2 million. The words hit me like a physical blow. "That's impossible. I would have had to sign papers. I would have known." "You did sign papers," Bryn said. "Do you remember when you were buying the house? All those documents Marcus had you sign?" He slipped the insurance policy in with the mortgage paperwork. My mind raced back to the house purchase. Marcus had handled most of the paperwork. He said he wanted to spare me the stress of dealing with all the legal documents. I had trusted him completely. I signed wherever he pointed without reading every page carefully. "But I survived," I said. My voice was barely a whisper. "The cancer's gone." "I know," Bryn said. There were tears in her eyes now. "But Marcus didn't think you would survive. When you were diagnosed, he thought you were going to die. He started planning for it, talking about how he would use the insurance money to start over somewhere new." The fountain beside us seemed to grow louder. It was drowning out the sound of my own heartbeat. "How do you know all this?" "Because he told me," she said. "He thought I was on his side. He thought I was just some woman he had met who understood how hard it was to watch someone you love die." Everything I thought I knew about my relationship was a lie. Everything I thought I knew about Marcus was wrong. "There's more," Bryn said softly. "Much more. And you deserve to know all of it." "What else?" I whispered. My hands were shaking. So badly I had to grip the edge of the bench. The life insurance policy was already too much to process. What could be worse than finding out your fiancé secretly hoped you would die? Bryn looked around the garden to make sure we were still alone. Then she opened the folder in her lap and pulled out more papers. Marcus has been stealing money from his company for over a year. He's been moving funds into secret accounts, planning to disappear after you died. I stared at the documents she handed me. Bank statements, account numbers, transfers of thousands of dollars, all with Marcus's name on them. He's been embezzling? I asked, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Almost $500,000 so far, Bryn said. He thought he was being clever, moving small amounts over time. But his business partners started getting suspicious a few months ago. My head was spinning. How do you know all this? Who are you? Bryn was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached into her purse again and pulled out a badge. A police badge. My real name is Detective Sarah Chen, she said. I work for the Financial Crimes Unit. I've been investigating Marcus for the past 8 months. I felt like the ground was disappearing beneath my feet. You're a cop? Marcus's business partner contacted us when he suspected the embezzlement. When we started looking into Marcus's finances, we discovered the life insurance policy. That's when we realized there was a much bigger crime happening. So you're not really his girlfriend? I asked. Nothing made sense anymore. I'm undercover, Sarah said. I've been pretending to be Bryn Whitfield, a woman he met at that Christmas party. But I was there working the case, trying to get information about his business dealings. When he approached me, I realized it was the perfect opportunity to get close to him. You've been lying to him this whole time? I've been building a case against him. The embezzlement, the insurance fraud, all of it. But I needed proof, and I needed to get him to confess on tape. She gestured toward the party behind us. This whole engagement is fake. I've been wearing a wire to every conversation we've had for the past 3 months. I couldn't speak. Everything I thought I knew was wrong. Marcus wasn't just a man who couldn't handle his sick fiancé. He was a criminal who had been planning to profit from my death. He told me everything, Sarah continued. How he took out the policy without your knowledge. How he started planning what he would do with the money when you died. How he met me at the Christmas party and decided I was the perfect alibi. Alibi for what? Think about it, Celeste. A grieving widower who falls in love again after losing his fiancé to cancer? No one would question him starting over with. A new woman and new money. Everyone would feel sorry for him. The cruelty of it took my breath away. While I was fighting for my life, Marcus was planning my funeral and his new future. While I was losing my hair and my strength, he was stealing money and finding a replacement for me. But then you survived, Sarah said. The cancer went into remission. Suddenly, his plan fell apart. He couldn't collect on the insurance if you lived. Worse than that, you might find out what he had done if you stayed together. So he had to leave you, and he had to make you believe it was because of how you looked. All those things he said about me being different, I whispered. All lies. He made you hate yourself so you wouldn't question why he really left. He made you believe you weren't worth loving so you wouldn't look too closely at his reasons. I felt sick. All those months of blaming myself, all those nights spent wondering if I was unlovable, all that time thinking I wasn't good enough because I had survived cancer. It had all been manipulation. Why are you telling me this? I asked. You're about to arrest him, right? Why do I need to know? Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Because you deserve to know the truth. You deserve to know that he didn't leave you because you weren't beautiful enough or healthy enough or good enough. He left you because he's a monster who thought he could profit from your death. There's something else, she continued. Something personal I need to tell you. What? My sister died of cancer 3 years ago. Ovarian cancer. She was 34, had 2 little kids, a husband who adored her. Sarah's voice got softer. I watched him take care of her through every treatment, every setback, every moment of fear. He never left her side. When she died, he was holding her hand. I felt tears running down my cheeks. When I found out what Marcus had done to you, when I realized he had abandoned you during your treatment because he thought he could cash in on your death. She shook her head. I couldn't let him get away with it. You deserve justice. You deserve to know that real love doesn't abandon you when you need it most. What happens now? I asked. Now we go back to that party, Sarah said, standing up and smoothing down her white dress. Now I get him to confess to the insurance fraud on tape. And now you get to watch the man who abandoned you when you needed him most get exactly what he deserves. I looked back toward the party, where Marcus was still holding court, still playing the role of the happy groom-to-be. He had no idea that his entire world was about to come crashing down. I don't know if I can face him, I said. You don't have to, Sarah said. But if you want to see him realize that his plan failed, that you survived everything he put you through and came out stronger, this is your chance. I thought about all the nights I had cried myself to sleep, all the times I had looked in the mirror and hated what I saw, all the months of believing that I wasn't enough, that I wasn't worth fighting for. Marcus had made me believe all of that was true, but it was all based on lies. I stood up, smoothed down my navy dress, and looked Sarah in the eye. Let's go end this. Walking back into that party felt like walking into a dream. Everything looked the same. The elegant guests, the soft music, the twinkling lights. But I saw it all differently now. This wasn't a celebration of love. This was the final act of a long con, and I was about to watch it all fall apart. Sarah squeezed my hand before we separated. I need to get back to Marcus and get him talking. Are you sure you're okay? I nodded, though I wasn't sure of anything. My hands were shaking and my heart was pounding. So hard I was sure everyone could hear it. But underneath the fear and shock, I felt something else growing. Anger. Pure, righteous anger at the man who had manipulated me, abandoned me, and tried to profit from my potential death. I watched Sarah make her way back to Marcus. She slipped seamlessly back into her role as the loving fiancé. She was good at this, I realized. Good at pretending to be someone else. Good at making people trust her. I wondered how many other criminals she had helped expose. Celeste? I turned to find Marcus standing behind me. His face was pale with shock. What are you doing here? For a moment, I couldn't speak. This was the man I had loved. The man I had planned to marry. The man I had trusted with my deepest fears and greatest hopes. Looking at him now, I couldn't understand how I had missed the coldness in his eyes, the calculating way he always seemed to be thinking 2 steps ahead. Bryn invited me, I said finally. I was surprised by how steady my voice sounded. She did what? His eyes darted around the party, looking for her. Why would she do that? Maybe you should ask her, I said. He ran his hand through his hair, a nervous habit I recognized from our time together. This is awkward, Celeste. I mean, I'm glad you're doing well. You look good, healthy, but this is my engagement party. I know exactly what this is, Marcus. Something in my tone made him look at me more carefully. Are you okay? You seem different. Different, the word he had used to justify leaving me. The word that had haunted me for months, making me question everything about myself. I am different, I said. I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better at seeing through lies. Celeste, I know you're probably still angry about how things ended between us, but $2 million, I said quietly. He went completely still. What? The life insurance policy you took out on me. $2 million. That's what? My life was worth to you, wasn't it? I watched the color drain from his face. I don't know what you're talking about. You signed my name to documents I never saw. You bet on me dying, Marcus. You planned my funeral while I was fighting for my life. That's crazy, he said, but his voice was shaking now. Where would you even get an idea like that? From your fiancé, I said. The one who's been recording every conversation you've had with her for the past 3 months. Marcus's face went through a series of emotions. Confusion, disbelief, and then slowly, understanding. He looked across the party to where Sarah was standing with a group of his friends. I saw the exact moment he realized he had been played. Sarah, he whispered. Detective Sarah Chen, I corrected. Financial Crimes Unit. He looked like he was going to be sick. This is insane. You're both insane. I don't know what game you're playing, but the only game here was the one you were playing with my life, I said. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Did you think you could just walk away with clean hands? I never did anything to hurt you, he said desperately. I just couldn't handle watching you die. I couldn't handle losing you. So you decided to profit from it instead. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Marcus? Explain to me how taking out a secret life insurance policy on your sick fiancé was an act of love. He looked around the party. People were starting to notice our conversation. Can we please not do this here? No, I said, my voice getting stronger. We're going to do this right here, right now. You destroyed my life because you thought I was going to die. When I didn't die, you made me believe I wasn't worth loving anymore. You made me hate myself for surviving. I never meant for you to feel that way. You told me I wasn't the same person you fell in love with. You made me believe that losing my hair made me unlovable. You abandoned me during the worst time of my life because you thought I was going to die and you wanted to cash in on it. By now, several people had stopped their conversations to listen to us. Marcus noticed and grabbed my arm. Celeste, please. We can talk about this privately. I pulled my arm away. Don't touch me. You lost the right to touch me when you decided my death was more valuable to you than my life. Ladies and gentlemen, a voice called out over the crowd. Sarah was standing on the small stage where the band had been playing. She held a microphone in her hand. If I could have your attention, please. Marcus's face went white. What is she doing? Ending this, I said. I have an announcement to make, Sarah continued. Her voice carried across the suddenly quiet party. My name is Detective Sarah Chen with the Financial Crimes Unit, and I'm here to place Marcus Whitfield under arrest for insurance fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit fraud. The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. Marcus took a step back, looking like a trapped animal. This is impossible, he whispered. This can't be happening. But it was happening. Police officers were moving through the crowd, making their way toward us. Sarah had pulled off her wire and was handing it to one of them, along with a folder of documents I assumed contained evidence of all of Marcus's crimes. Marcus Whitfield, one of the officers said, reaching us. You're under arrest. As they read him his rights and cuffed his hands behind his back, Marcus looked at me with something that might have been regret. Celeste, I'm sorry. I really am sorry. I know, I said. But sorry doesn't change what you did. Sorry doesn't give me back the months I spent hating myself because of your lies. They led him away through the crowd of shocked party guests. I watched him go, waiting to feel something. Satisfaction, maybe, or closure. But all I felt was empty. It was over. The man who had abandoned me during my darkest hour was finally facing consequences for his actions. The lie that had made me question my own worth had been exposed. But, somehow, I didn't feel like celebrating. The country club had cleared out quickly after Marcus's arrest. Most of the guests had left in shocked silence, probably wondering how they had ended up at a sting operation instead of an engagement party. I stood alone on the terrace, staring out at the empty garden where Sarah had told me the truth about Everything. Are you okay? Sarah approached me, still wearing her white dress but looking exhausted. The performance was over, and I could see the toll it had taken on her. I don't know, I said honestly. I thought I'd feel different, better, maybe, but I just feel empty. That's normal, she said, sitting down beside me on the stone wall. Justice doesn't always feel the way we think it will. How long have you been working on this case? 8 months. Marcus's business partner contacted us when he suspected embezzlement. When we started investigating, we discovered the insurance policy and realized there was a bigger story. She looked down at her hands. I've been Detective Chen for 12 years, but I've never worked a case quite like this one. What made you decide to tell me the truth tonight? She was quiet for a long moment. My sister died of cancer 3 years ago. Ovarian cancer. She was 34, had 2 kids, a husband who loved her more than life itself. Sarah's voice got softer. I watched him take care of her through every treatment, every setback, every moment of fear. He never left her side. When she died, he was holding her hand. I felt tears pricking my eyes. I'm sorry. When I found out what Marcus had done to you, when I realized he had abandoned you during your treatment because he thought he could profit from your death. She shook her head. I couldn't let him get away with it. You deserve to know the truth. What happens now? With the case, I mean. He'll go to prison. The embezzlement charges alone will probably get him 5 to 10 years. The insurance fraud adds more time. He won't be hurting anyone else for a long while. We sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching the last of the party staff clean up the remnants of what should have been a celebration. String lights twinkled overhead, and somewhere in the distance, music still played softly. I should go, I said finally. My boyfriend is probably worried. I told him I'd call when this was over. David, right? Sarah asked, and I looked at her in surprise. I've been investigating Marcus for months. I know about your life now, about how you've rebuilt everything he tried to destroy. You investigated me too? I had to make sure you weren't involved in any of his schemes. But what I found was just a woman who survived something terrible and came out stronger on the other side. You should be proud of yourself, Celeste. I thought about the past year. The cancer, the treatments, the heartbreak, the slow process of rebuilding my life. I thought about David, who loved me exactly as I was. I thought about my job, my friends, my hair that had grown back different but beautiful in its own way. Maybe I am proud, I said. Maybe I'm finally ready to be proud. Sarah smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her all evening. There's something else, she said, reaching into her purse. Something I wanted to give you before you go. She handed me an envelope, this one plain white with my name written in different handwriting than the invitation. What is this? Open it. Inside was a check made out to me for $2 million. I stared at it, not understanding. What is this? The insurance policy Marcus took out on you, it's still valid. And since you're the beneficiary, which you are, legally, even though he took it out without your knowledge, the money belongs to you. But I'm not dead. No, but the policy had a clause for terminal illness diagnosis, when you were first. Diagnosed with cancer, that technically triggered the payout. Marcus was planning to collect it by claiming you had died, but the insurance company investigated and discovered the fraud. They've been holding the money in escrow until the case was resolved. I kept staring at the check, the numbers not quite making sense. This is really mine? It's really yours. Marcus committed fraud trying to get money that legally belonged. To you anyway. The insurance company wants to make this right. $2 million. More money than I'd ever imagined having. Money that could change my entire life. could give me security and freedom and opportunities I'd never dreamed of. Money that had come from the worst thing that had ever happened to me. "I don't know if I want it," I said quietly. "It feels wrong somehow, like I'm profiting from my own suffering." "You're not profiting from your suffering," Sarah said gently. "You're being compensated for what someone else tried to do to you. Marcus tried to turn your illness into his profit. This makes sure you're the one who benefits instead." I folded the check and put it back in the envelope. "I need to think about this." "Of course, there's no rush. The money will be there whenever you're ready." I stood up, smoothing down my dress. "Thank you, Sarah, for everything. For risking your career to tell me the truth. For making sure Marcus faced justice, for giving me back my sense of worth. You never lost that," she said. "It was always there. You just had to remember it." I walked to my car feeling lighter than I had in months. Not because of the money. I still wasn't sure how I felt about that. But because I finally knew the truth. I finally understood that Marcus's abandonment had nothing to do with my worth and everything to do with his greed. As I drove home to David, I thought about the invitation that had started this whole journey. The cream-colored envelope that had felt so heavy in my hands just a few hours ago. Bryn's invitation that had led me to the truth, to justice, and ultimately to a kind of freedom I hadn't expected. It really had been an invitation I'd never forget, just not for the reasons I'd thought. I pulled into my driveway and saw David waiting on the front porch. He rushed to me the moment I got out of the car, pulling me into his arms and holding me tight. "How did it go?" he asked, his voice muffled against my hair. "Are you okay?" I leaned into his warmth, breathing in his familiar scent. "It's over," I said. "It's finally over." And for the first time in months, I meant it completely. David held me on our front porch for a long time, not asking questions, just letting me feel safe in his arms. When I was ready, I told him everything. About Sarah being a detective, about the insurance policy, about Marcus's arrest. I showed him the check, watching his eyes widen as he processed the amount. $2 million, he whispered. "Celeste, this is incredible. You could do anything with this money. Travel the world, start your own business, buy a house, retire early." "I could," I agreed. "But I keep thinking about what it represents. This money exists because someone I trusted wanted me to die." David set the check down on our coffee table and took my hands in his. "This money exists because you survived," he said firmly. "Because you fought cancer and won. Because you're here, alive and strong and beautiful. Don't let Marcus poison this for you too." I looked into his kind eyes and saw nothing but love and support. No pity, no fear, no calculation. Just pure, unconditional love for who I was right now in this moment. "What would you do?" I asked. "If you were me?" "I'd do whatever felt right to you," he said. "But if you want my opinion, I think you should use this money to build the life you want. The life Marcus tried to steal from you." That night, I lay awake thinking about everything that had happened. A year ago, I'd been planning a wedding to a man who was secretly hoping I'd die. Now I was lying next to a man who celebrated every day I was alive. A year ago, I'd hated my reflection, seeing only what I'd lost. Now I saw someone who'd been through hell and survived. Someone who'd been broken and rebuilt herself stronger. A year ago, I'd believed that losing my hair made me unlovable. Now I knew that anyone who couldn't love me at my most vulnerable didn't deserve me at my strongest. The next morning, I called Zara. "You did what?" she shrieked when I told her about the party. "Girl, you buried the lead. Start from the beginning. And don't leave out a single detail." I told her everything, and by the end, she was crying. "I'm so proud of you," she said. "And I'm so glad that bastard is finally getting what he deserves. What are you going to do with the money?" "I have an idea," I said, "but I need your help." 3 months later, I stood in front of a small storefront downtown, keys in my hand. The sign above the door read, "Survivor Strong, a wellness center for cancer fighters and thrivers." I'd used half the insurance money to buy and renovate the building. The other half went into a trust fund that would provide free services to cancer patients who couldn't afford them. The center offered everything I'd wished I'd had during my treatment: support groups, nutritional counseling, wig and scarf fittings, massage therapy, art therapy, and most importantly, a place where people going through cancer could feel beautiful and supported and understood. Sarah came to the opening ceremony, out of uniform and looking relaxed for the first time since I'd met her. "This is amazing, Celeste," she said, looking around at the bright, welcoming space. "You've created something really special here." "It feels right," I said, "like this is what the money was always supposed to be for." Eleanor from my support group was there too, along with James and Sophia and dozens of other cancer survivors I'd met over the past year. They filled the space with laughter and hope and the kind of strength that only comes from surviving something that was supposed to destroy you. David stood beside me as I cut the ribbon, his hand warm on my back. "I love you," he whispered in my ear. "I love your strength, your courage, your heart. I love everything about who you are." "Even the scars?" I asked, only half joking. "Especially the scars," he said. "They're proof of how far you've come." As people toured the center and shared their own stories, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The invitation that had seemed like such a cruel joke had actually been a gift. It had led me to the truth about Marcus. It had given me closure and justice, and ultimately, it had given me the means to help other people going through what I had experienced. "Celeste?" A young woman approached me hesitantly. She was maybe 25, wearing a colorful headscarf that couldn't quite hide the fact that she was bald underneath. "I just wanted to say thank you. My boyfriend left me 2 weeks after I was diagnosed with breast cancer. He said he couldn't handle dating someone who was sick." My heart broke for her. "I'm so sorry. That must have been devastating." "It was, but hearing your story, seeing what you've built here, it gives me hope. Maybe someday I'll be strong like you." "You're already strong," I told her, taking her hands. "You're here, you're fighting, you're surviving. That's strength. And you know what? Someone who leaves you when you're sick doesn't deserve you when you're healthy." She smiled through her tears. "Will you tell me more about how you got through it?" I spent the next hour talking with her and several other young cancer patients. I told them about the dark days, the self-doubt, the feeling of being broken. But I also told them about the healing, the growth, the discovery that they were so much stronger than they'd ever imagined. "The person who loves you for real," I said to the group gathered around me, "will love you through everything. The baldness, the scars, the fear, the weakness, all of it. And if someone can't do that, then they're not your person." "How do you know when you've found your person?" someone asked. I looked across the room at David, who was helping Eleanor set up chairs for tomorrow's first support group meeting. "You know because they make you feel like yourself, not like someone you have to pretend to be. They see your worst moments and love you more, not less. They celebrate your survival instead of mourning who you used to be." That evening, after everyone had gone home and David and I were cleaning up, I found myself standing in the main room of the center. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the comfortable chairs and art supplies and books about healing. "Any regrets?" David asked, coming up behind me and wrapping his arms around my waist. "None," I said, leaning back against his chest. "This feels like what I was meant to do with my life, what I was meant to do with that money. I'm proud of you, he said, for taking something so painful and turning it into something beautiful. I thought about Marcus, somewhere in a prison cell, finally understanding what real consequences felt like. I thought about all the months I'd blamed myself for his leaving, all the nights I'd cried myself to sleep thinking I wasn't enough. But mostly, I thought about tomorrow, about the people who would walk through these doors, looking for hope and healing, about the lives that might be changed because I'd learned to turn my pain into purpose. The invitation that had brought me to this moment really had changed everything, just not in the way I'd expected when I first opened that cream-colored envelope. It had invited me back to myself. 6 months after opening Survivor Strong, I was working late in my office when the phone rang. It was an unknown number, but something made me answer it. Celeste, it's Sarah. Sarah Chen. Sarah, how are you? It's been months since I've heard from you. I'm good. Better than good, actually. I wanted to call and tell you something. Marcus's sentencing hearing was today. I set down my pen and gave her my full attention. How long did he get? 12 years. 8 for the embezzlement, 4 more for the insurance fraud. He won't be eligible for parole for at least 8 years. I waited for the satisfaction to hit me, the sense of justice served. Instead, I just felt tired. How do I feel about that? You tell me. How do you feel? Sad, I said, surprising myself. Not sad for him exactly, but sad that it came to this. Sad that someone I once loved turned out to be capable of something so cold. That's normal, Sarah said. It means you're not letting this turn you bitter. That's actually why I called. I wanted to tell you something else. What? I got a letter from Marcus in prison. He asked me to give you a message. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Let me guess. He's sorry, and he wants me to visit him so he can explain himself. Actually, no. He said to tell you that he's glad you survived. He said he knows what he did was unforgivable, but he's glad you're alive and building something good with your life. He said he hopes someday you can forgive him, not for his sake, but for yours. I was quiet for a long moment processing this. That's not what I expected him to say. Prison has a way of giving people perspective. Maybe he's finally understanding what he lost when he chose money over love. Maybe, I said, but it doesn't change anything. No, it doesn't. But maybe it gives you some closure. After we hung up, I sat in my office thinking about forgiveness. Did I forgive Marcus? I wasn't sure. I didn't hate him anymore. The anger had burned itself out over the past months, replaced by something more like pity. He'd destroyed his life for money. He never even got. He'd lost a woman who'd loved him completely for a fantasy that had never been real. But forgiveness felt like a luxury I wasn't ready for yet. Maybe someday. Maybe when enough time had passed and enough healing had happened. Or maybe never. And I was okay with that. 2. I locked up the center and drove home to David, who was making dinner in our kitchen. We'd moved in together 3 months ago, into a house we'd bought together with some of the insurance money. It had a garden where I was learning to grow tomatoes and a big front porch where we sat in the evenings and talked about our days. How was work? He asked, kissing me hello. Good. Busy. We had 12 new clients this week. That's amazing. You're changing lives, you know that? Maybe, I said. Or maybe I'm just creating the support system I wish I'd had. Same thing, he said, pulling me close. You took the worst thing that ever happened to you and turned it into help for other people. That's pretty incredible. I looked around. Our kitchen, with photos of us on the refrigerator and his coffee mug next to mine in the sink, and groceries we'd bought together filling the pantry. This was the life I'd built from the ashes of everything Marcus had tried to destroy. David, I said, an idea suddenly forming. How would you feel about having the wedding here? In the backyard? He stopped stirring the pasta sauce and looked at me. Are you proposing to me? I laughed. Maybe I am. We've been talking about it for months. We know we want to spend our lives together. Why wait? Because I was supposed to propose to you, he said, but he was grinning. I had this whole plan. I was going to take you back to the place we had our first date and… David, I interrupted, taking his hands. I don't need grand gestures or perfect proposals. I just need you. I need this life we're building together. I need someone who loves me exactly as I am, scars and all. Scars and all, he agreed, leaning down to kiss me. Yes, Celeste. Yes to everything. Yes to the backyard wedding. Yes to growing old together. Yes to whatever life throws at us next. Even if I get sick again? I asked, the fear I rarely voiced anymore slipping out. Especially if you get sick again, he said firmly. In sickness and health, remember? That's not just words to me. That's a promise. Later that night, I stood in front of our bathroom mirror getting ready for bed. My hair had grown, back thick and curly, with streaks of silver that caught the light. My body bore the scars of surgery and treatment, marks that would always remind me of what I'd survived. But looking at my reflection, I didn't see someone who'd been damaged by cancer. I saw someone who'd been refined by it, like gold tested by fire. I saw someone who'd learned the difference between love and possession, between worth and appearance, between surviving and thriving. Marcus had tried to reduce me to a dollar amount, to see my value only in terms of what my death could bring him. But I'd learned that my worth couldn't be measured in dollars or appearance or any external thing. My worth came from my strength, my resilience, my capacity to love and be loved, my ability to turn pain into purpose. I'd survived cancer. I'd survived betrayal. I'd survived having my heart broken by someone I'd trusted completely. And not only had I survived, I'd built something beautiful from the wreckage. Tomorrow, I'd go back to the center and help other people find their own strength. Tomorrow, David and I would start planning our wedding. Tomorrow, I'd continue building the life that was truly mine. But tonight, I just stood in front of the mirror and smiled at the woman looking back at me. She was scarred and silver-haired and absolutely radiant. She was a survivor. She was strong. She was loved. She was enough. She had always been enough. And Marcus? Marcus was exactly where he belonged, in the past, unable to hurt anyone ever again. Turned off the light and went to bed, where the man who truly loved me was waiting. As I settled into his arms, I thought about the invitation that had started this whole journey. Bryn's invitation that had led me to the truth, to justice, and ultimately, to closure. It really had been an invitation I'd never forget. Just not for the reasons I'd expected. The cream-colored envelope had felt so heavy in my hands that day, weighted with dread and old pain. But it had actually been carrying something much lighter, the truth that would set me free. Free from self-doubt. Free from blame. Free from the lie that I wasn't enough. Free to love and be loved exactly as I was. Free to build the life I deserved. The morning of our wedding dawned clear and bright, the kind of perfect September day that makes you believe in new beginnings. I woke up in our bedroom, soon to be our married bedroom, with sunlight streaming through the windows and the sound of David humming in the kitchen downstairs. Today was the day I'd marry the man who'd loved me through panic attacks about cancer coming back. The man who'd held my hand through follow-up appointments. The man who'd celebrated every clear scan like it was a national holiday. The man who'd never once made me feel like damaged goods or a consolation prize. Zara arrived early to help me get ready, along with my mom and David's sister. They fussed over my dress, a simple ivory sheath that complemented my figure without hiding my scars. They exclaimed over my hair, which I'd decided to wear natural and unstyled. "You look radiant," my mom said, tears in her eyes. "I'm so proud of the woman you've become." "The woman I've always been," I corrected gently. "I just had to remember her." The ceremony was small. Maybe 40 people gathered in our backyard under the oak tree, where David had hung string lights that twinkled like stars. Eleanor was there, along with James and Sophia and several other friends from my support group. Sarah came too, looking elegant in a blue dress that was nothing like the white gown she'd worn to Marcus's fake engagement party. As I walked down the makeshift aisle, really just our garden path lined with flowers from my own garden, I caught sight of David waiting for me under the oak tree. He was wearing his navy suit, the same color Marcus had worn to that party a year ago. But everything else was different. The love in David's eyes was real. The promises we were about to make were real. This life we'd built together was real. "Dearly beloved," the officiant began, but I barely heard the traditional words. I was too busy looking at David, memorizing this moment, storing it away like a treasure. When it came time for our vows, David went first. "Celeste," he said, his voice steady and sure, "you've taught me that real love isn't about loving someone when it's easy. It's about loving someone through the hard parts, the scary parts, the parts that test everything you think you know about yourself. You've shown me what strength looks like, what courage looks like, what real beauty looks like. I promise to love you in sickness and health, not because the words are traditional, but because I've seen what that promise really means." Then it was my turn. "David," I said, my voice stronger than I'd expected. "A year ago, I thought my life was over. I thought cancer had taken everything from me. My health, my hair, my sense of self, my faith in love. But you showed me that love isn't about perfection. It's about acceptance. It's about seeing someone exactly as they are and saying, 'Yes, this is who I choose.' You chose me when I was bald and scared and broken. You choose me now, whole and healthy and strong. I promise to keep choosing you through whatever comes next." We exchanged rings, simple bands that matched each other, nothing fancy or expensive, just as symbols of a love that was real and tested and true. "You may kiss the bride," the officiant said, and David did, soft and sweet and perfect. As our guests cheered and the photographer captured the moment, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The cancer that had nearly killed me, but ultimately made me stronger. The betrayal that had nearly broken me, but ultimately freed me from someone who didn't deserve my love. The investigation that had brought justice and closure. And, unexpectedly, the money that had let me build something meaningful from my pain. But mostly, I thought about the invitation that had started it all. The cream-colored envelope with my name written in elegant script. The invitation to an engagement party that had actually been an invitation to reclaim my life. Later, during the reception, Sarah pulled me aside. "I have something for you," she said, handing me a small wrapped box. "A wedding present." Inside was a simple silver bracelet with a single charm, a phoenix rising from flames. "Because you rose from the ashes," she said simply. I hugged her, this woman who'd risked everything to give me back my truth. "Thank you. For everything." "Thank you for showing me what real strength looks like," she said back. As the evening wound down and our guests began to leave, David and I stood in our backyard, surrounded by the remnants of our perfect day. Fairy lights twinkled overhead, empty glasses dotted the tables, and flower petals from my bouquet were scattered across the grass. "No regrets?" David asked, pulling me close. "None," I said, and meant it completely. I thought about Marcus, serving his time in prison, hopefully learning what real love should look like. I thought about the center, which would be there on Monday, ready to help more people find their strength. I thought about the insurance money that had turned from a symbol of betrayal into a tool for healing. But mostly, I thought about tomorrow and the day after that, and all the days stretching ahead of us. Days filled with love and laughter, and probably some challenges too, because that's what life is. But whatever came next, we'd face it together. The woman who'd received that invitation a year ago had been broken, scared, and convinced she wasn't worth loving. The woman who'd married David today was whole, strong, and absolutely certain of her worth. That cream-colored envelope had promised an engagement party I'd never forget. It had delivered something much more valuable. It had given me back myself. Was finally free. Free from the lies Marcus had made me believe about my worth. Free from the shame I'd carried about surviving when I was supposed to die. Free from the fear that I wasn't enough exactly as I was. Free to love completely and be loved completely in return. Free to build the life I'd always deserved, but had been too afraid to claim. The invitation had asked me to witness someone else's love story. Instead, it had led me to write my own. That's how one invitation changed everything for Celeste. From heartbreak to healing. From betrayal to true love. Sometimes the worst moments in our lives lead us to the best chapters we never saw coming. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to help us spread more stories of hope and kindness to people who need them. And don't go anywhere yet. Click on the I video appearing on your screen right now for another incredible story that will remind you just how strong the human spirit can be. Thanks for listening, and remember, you are always enough, exactly as you are.